And they are the factories of creating militants and insurgents. Why? Education was so low that their aspirations had been raised very high, ambitions had been raised very high, but their merit was such that they could not fit in. They could not be accommodated. Nobody in the private sector would hire them at all because they didn't know much. It was all because they are Bhumiputra, local, so local, all those things which come up. You know it very well, like you know. So and then we fought, exploited by the politicians to organize their rallies and other things. Only persons whose voice was heard and who were at a high level were the vice chancellors of our universities. So we worked in all the vice chancellors of the universities, and we created a body called Northeastern Regional Education Council. Since I was the minister in charge, so it was under my chairmanship, and we deliberated for 2 years. And then we brought out a paper which is called Revamping of Education in the Northeastern Region, where we diagnosed the causes and said what is to be done. So I was reading from that. Now, what we suggested there could be of some relevance, mutatis mutandis, to the rest, here also, to higher education. We concentrated first. This is the phase, this is what I call the phase of adolescence. When a child starts walking, he must, hurt his knees and his elbows, bruises he must suffer that. Then only start learning to walk. This is that phase. I hope it will go with more enlightenment coming. Now, first thing we must see. I am 5 minutes more. I must end now. The Regional Education Council has given 5 objectives, which will be maybe are perhaps worth consideration. One is manifestation of the perfection that exists already in the child. Every child got enough potential. The only thing is to create conditions so that that potential can be manifested properly. And let them go to the skills stream. Some are very good with their brain, but in one subject, science or art, let them do that. That's some mere collecting of facts. Now that is the basic thing which is mostly forgotten. By pumping in more and where everybody wants to become a deputy commissioner or a political officer, as we used to be called earlier. Nothing below that. And he had merit, he couldn't write one. And third is, very important, fourth, develop a nationalistic and secular outlook in consonance with the regional, traditional and cultural ethos of equity and equality. Now, they have amassed wealth so much that now they look down upon their own people. So inequality is created. It's going to cause something akin to Naxalism, what is happening in the rest of the country, which will be very dangerous there. Then human dignity and high regard for labor. But what is happening now is a university graduate, I am talking of Northeast, but it is maybe applicable elsewhere also. A university graduate, he goes back to his village. There his father is working with his faithfulness. In fact, they don't know how to tell lies. As a district magistrate in 60s, I had great problem. A man came to me that, look here, sir, this man from another, sub-tribe, he had insulted this, which I know in that culture is thought to be worse than killing a man. That type of insult he had done. And therefore I have killed him and I have come here, do whatever you like with him. Now that was the thing. And then I had to engage a lawyer, because otherwise if I tried under the IPC, I would have killed me. This is what has happened, so he will not change his word. So I had to engage a lawyer from outside, he has it record, and then I had to give him some sentence. And seeing that the young man, and as you said that whether his career would be spoiled or not, later on, and he becomes a real rebel. So I said, all right, I declare my servant quarter as a temporary jail. And you are sentenced to so many months of jail, you will live here. And and then they expand the value system beyond the narrow limits of one's own clan or tribe to include others who have identical value system, but again confined to their own clan or tribe or community. And that is one point there which does not, to some extent here also. has got the same value system. But tribes are at war with each other. Why? Because of historical reasons. When tribes came from all over north, west, south and east in that particular uninhabited area, their only means of subsistence was land, forests and waters. So every tribe was the enemy of that, trying to encroach upon their thing. So they developed that type. Now that law and order thing is gone, yet that psychology remains, as is there in our caste system. That is still there. So that will take some time. This is also there. And the crucial most, you concentrate on him, give him all the facilities, raise his status, then you will have good education, not by providing blackboards and chalks and dusters. I have myself, my contact with education has been genetic. My mother was a teacher, my father started off as a teacher, retired at number 2 in the health education system in Rajasthan when he retired. I have also, after this, taught. While I was doing my MSc, I was a demonstrator. Then I have taught as a regular lecturer, UPSC selected, PhD selected for 3 years. Then I took the exams and come. Then I had again got the opportunity. As a municipal, the commissioner of the Municipal Corporation of Delhi, there were almost a lack of primary school education was with me. So a lack of students, 10,000 teachers, 1,000 schools were there. Which is all I am repeating. Thank you very much for this.
BTech 1977 and MTech in 1979 from this institute, and now he is promoter director of Fena Industries Private Limited, and which manufactures number of items. He is presently the joint managing director of this company. He is also trustee of Fena Foundation. That is a charitable trust supported by the Fena Industries. And also he is member of the core group of value education initiative of the National Resource Center for Value Education and Engineering, that is NARCV of IIT Delhi. In fact, I was also a member of this earlier. Now I invite Mr. Pradeep Jolly to share his thoughts on the holistic education. Mr. Jolly, please.
Well, there is some correction here. Mr. Pradeep Jolly, you will have to wait for a little bit because we have a tea break here. Yeah, and
commandant of
You're already running behind Shitty.
Gail and other members of the Knowledge Resource Development and Welfare Group, and distinguished members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen. Even though I'm from the industry, but I'm an educationist at heart, so if my views sound more like an academic, please do not be surprised. We see a general decline in the conduct and behavior of the people. This is so not only for the uneducated, but for the so-called educated elite too. Obviously, there is a missing link in our education system, because of which we see this malaise. The education system must produce good human beings. Only good human beings can be good role players. Thus, we need to educate the people to be good doctors, good employers, and so on and so forth. Competencies alone are not sufficient to achieve such an objective. We know that a competent doctor who is not honest and responsible cannot be a good doctor. Relating to different areas of specialization, there is little or no emphasis on developing the character. Through competency building, we can hope to raise the gross national product. But it is only through character that we can hope to raise the gross national happiness. So what is it that the education should provide? I would like to suggest that all education should aim at developing etiquette. Coming to the other quotient, namely the wisdom quotient. Here the education deficit is even more stark. We find that some people who are very good with their domain knowledge lack the maturity and are not able to do well in their professions. Today, all wisdom is developed in a random manner and is essentially based on our individual life experiences. It is largely confined to what life has taught us. There is no doubt that life is a great teacher, but we end up learning our lessons after having lived our lives, and not when we need them. We need the wisdom even when. Before we talk about how it can be done, we must first try to understand what do we really mean by it. Wisdom to me means maturity and growth. It is about self-knowledge, about self-management, cleanliness, civility, courtesy, being considerate to others, humility, cooperation and teamwork, unselfishness, conservativeness, empathy, commitment, consistency, and last but not the least, social responsibility. With the subject of life at large and not confine itself to the utilitarian principle. The individual. We all know that to operate any equipment, we need to study its operating manual. We therefore need to have some knowledge about our constitution, which consists of our physical body. That all these are but one integrated system, seamlessly working together to enable us to function as intelligent and conscious beings that are vulnerable at the same time. Distinguish between right and wrong. To develop the intellect to arrive at informed choices. To be aggressive good and not be passive good. The individual must be such an education must be an effort at man-making to develop individuals with helping hands, loving hearts, and thinking minds. Such an education can be imparted through classroom lectures, group discussions, inspiring literature, educational audiovisual content, meaningful theater and films, and talks by eminent people of fine character. Students can be sensitized by exposure to real life situations by working with NGOs, etc. in a theoretical framework alone. This must necessarily be done in an experiential manner and seen to be lived by those responsible for imparting it. Also, the environment around must also be seen to support and validate the same. Thus, the educational fraternity must exemplify and live by these values. We cannot expect youngsters to follow what we preach but do not practice. Today, the institutions of higher learning face an additional challenge of filling the gap. The secondary education system is essentially focused on academic development of the students to the neglect of various other areas of development of the human personality. The student should be prepared with social and life skills to face the many challenges to be confronted by him as he transits from the secured environment of a home to the wild world of competition.
Half address I had given then, and therefore I'll focus. Actually, I had planned to come through PowerPoints, which I had brought, but when I saw the theme, holistic education from perspective of industry, because that's the dimension that I perhaps has not been highlighted so much as it should be. Now, when I talk of quality is always defined as conformance to customers' requirements is quality. So when we talk quality in the context of technical and professional education, we obviously have to find out who are the customers of that quality. The customers are the employers, the industry, the society, the government. Therefore, when we talk of holistic education or quality education, we first need to identify the requirements of the customer, namely the industry. Unfortunately, in the context of technical education and maybe education in general, talking at each other won't do. We have to understand that we have shared concerns, we have shared fortunes, and unless industry realizes this fact, and unless the academic institutions realize this fact, we are not going to deliver quality, whatever we may say. And I've seen it, I've been associated with the industry. When I see CII meetings, you hardly find any academician being present. And when I find academic seminars, you hardly find anybody from industry present. This kind of neither industry I had delivered in the Vice Chancellor's Conference in Malaysia 3-4 years back. Industry must recognize that the academic institutions are the nursery of their future talent pool. The moment they look at these academic institutions from that perspective, that these are the nursery of their future talent pool, their attitude towards academic institutions will be so positive, because for 4 years these institutions is poor. This would affect the industry for the rest of their time. And therefore, the moment you recognize the opportunity cost of the industry remaining indifferent and aloof from the academic institution, they are going to pay a very heavy price of that aloofness. Unfortunately, that aloofness remains today. You hardly find this kind of perspective that industry and academia have to a joint responsibility of nurturing this talent for mutual win-win. This requires a fundamental mindset change, and the process has to begin from industry to recognize, and therefore I often say the stakes are much more at the industry in remaining aloof, because after all, the way academic institutions have grown in this country, and I don't mind my saying so, parents only wake up when a boy doesn't get a job or he does something untoward. The parents are indifferent. Teachers are perhaps, the kind of teachers we require are just not there. For teaching is not a job, it's a nation building process. And therefore we require a kind of teachers who would come through the process not recognizing on the compensation package that you give, but taking as a great nation building task that has been done. I don't mind because I'm speaking through heart, because you have to face the facts before you can think of. And I think that this concept of packages
has done tremendous damage to the entire educational processes. Where one person out of 1,000, and maybe a relative of the owner, who might have been employed, he gets a package of 1 crore per year. The press brings out in a big way, oh, our institution, we got, tomorrow he gets a salary of 1 lakh per month. Even an average kind of a package is perceived today. You're actually spoiling him. What does he do with it? He gets into a wrong track. The money gets into a head, but much bigger damage is, since academic institutions are not able to match